Thank you for choosing the Sony FS7 recoil rig from Zacuto. Now in this video I'll be showing you how to properly build and balance this rig so you can shoot comfortably with this camera all day long. Now the key to any recoil rig is balance, and the most important thing to remember is that your eye, shoulder, and hand placement don't change. They will always be in the same spot. Recoil rigs move the camera image to your eye and camera control to your hand, so we can set the camera on the shooter's shoulder and slide it as far behind the shooter as needed to achieve the best possible balance. So let's lay out all the parts in this kit that will help us do this, and there really aren't that many. We've got a VCT universal, comes with two 6.5-inch rods. We have the FS7 Axis Mini that's made up of a swivel, the Axis Mini, and a rosette adapter, which you only need if you're going to use their LCD out in front. And we have one rosette mini mount. First things first, we need to mount the camera to the VCT universal. Screw the VCT universal's mounting screws into the respective mounting holes on the bottom of the camera about halfway. We found that more often than not, the balance point of the camera ends up being where the lens meets the camera body. So we recommend setting that point directly over the shoulder pad and tightening it down there. And once we have the rig fully built, we'll use the VCT slide capacity to make further balancing adjustments. Now we've gone ahead and found some more specific placements that depend on what lens you're using on the FS7 using the numbered measurements on the VCT base plate. These will position the camera so that that specific lens's focus ring will be able to connect to a Z drive. When I put this E-mount to Canon adapter on here, a very compact 50mm Zeiss Prime means that my camera will need to be set so that its front foot is sitting around the 33mm mark on the VCT base plate. This slightly longer CP2 lens will allow me to push the camera back to the 63 mark. The very common 24 to 70mm V2 lens from Canon gets me back to about 89, and when I put this Canon 30 to 105 Cine Zoom lens on here, I can push the camera all the way back on the plate. Go ahead and find where your lens needs to be and tighten down the screws. Now before we continue, we highly recommend locking your VCT universal into a VCT 14 or mounting it directly to the tripod plate, because building off of a stable base is much easier. The rod riser in front of the VCT universal can be adjusted to use any variety of accessories by loosening or removing the two screws. But to get the rods to the lightweight industry standard, which will get a matte box to the correct height, you will need to orient the rod riser's rod ports to the bottom and raise the rod riser until the bottom edge is approximately 12mm from the surface of the VCT universal's lip, and tighten the screws down. When positioned this way, the center of the rods are the correct 85mm from the center of your lens, which is the lightweight industry standard. Now to mount the viewfinder, we must start with the included swivel. This piece's rod ports have independent 360-degree adjustability, so it can be oriented many different ways, but we found that the best way to orient it in this situation is to slide the rear port onto the FS7's cross rod so that the swivel is hanging with the open port in front. Then orient the open rod port to hang as low as possible as well. Now we can insert the 15mm rod from the Axis Mini into the swivel and tighten it in place. If you're using the Sony FS7 viewfinder, you will need the included adapter. Just screw it into the Axis Mini's rosette and slide the viewfinder's open rod port onto the 1-inch rod and tighten it down with the included Allen wrench. Now be very careful when you're screwing or unscrewing the FS7's LCD screw, because it is very fine and really easy to strip. Now keep in mind that if you're using the camera's LCD, its viewfinder is so long that it will need to go very far forward, even further forward than the FS7's included rod will allow you to go. So you definitely need to use the Axis Mini's reach to get the LCD into the correct placement. And because it's so far forward, you'll run the risk of the LCD actually being in your shot. And because the LCD is so wide, you will likely have to position the EVF further from the camera body, which means you will be turning your head to the side to reach it, or setting the whole rig on the outside of your shoulder just to compensate. You also will not be able to fit a matte box on the rig. Now the Zacuto Graticle is a micro OLED EVF with far superior image quality. Using the Zacuto Graticle eliminates all of these issues. Simply mount it directly to the Axis Mini's rosette. Now, if you're using a third-party EVF such as the Recoil, consider installing a Zacuto mount to the top right of the battery plate on the camera. Using a American arm, you can mount Sony's LCD and use it as an onboard monitor. And remember that with an Axis Mini, whenever you go to a tripod, you can reorient the EVF to a much more comfortable upright position. Next, slide the Rosette Mini mount onto the 15mm rods in front. When you attach the Sony FS7's grip to the rosette, you can use the rotation of the rosette mount to find the spot most comfortable for your hand, keeping in mind that the grip itself has its own slide and rotational adjustability. Sometimes tightening accessories that use both rods can pinch or spread the rod slightly enough to keep other accessories from being mounted. To remedy this, just loosen the accessory, add the second, and tighten both of them down. And now your rig is completely built and ready to be adjusted to the most comfortable position for your shooter. Now, we may already have the camera pushed as far back as we possibly can, so use the Axis Mini's 3 adjustment points and its side-to-side adjustability with the rod to get the EVF right into the shooter's eye, and adjust the FS7 grip to the most comfortable position. The FS7 top handle has many features built into it, so we can't remove or reposition this handle whatsoever. So consider that if you're using a larger cinema-style lens and the camera is set very far back, the Axis Mini is attached to the handle, which is going to restrict how far forward you can send the Axis Mini to meet your eye. If it cannot reach far enough forward, you'll have to slide the camera itself forward on the plate until it sits at the correct position. Adding accessories to the rear of the VCT Universal can greatly help center the balance point of a front-heavy rig. This can be accomplished with a Zacuto's Wisp plate with a battery and/or recorder mounted to it. This Wisp plate can be positioned several different ways on your rear rods, and if these accessories add too much back weight to the rig, you can slide the entire camera further forward while keeping your front-mounted accessories in the exact same position. Alright, we wish you the best when you're out there shooting with the FS7 Recoil from Zacuto. Now, if you have any more questions or need some more information on specific parts, please feel free to check out our other product videos available on our website. Thanks for watching.